Welcome to Faith Talk with Val
and S1E8.
We are a Bible-based podcast where we talk about real life, real struggles, and how faith makes all the difference. In today's episode, we're going to take an expanded look at what it truly means to be prepared. Not just prepared for opportunities, but prepared for purpose, trials, seasons, and God's timing.
Yes, so I want to frame today's episode with a verse from Jeremiah chapter 12, verse 5. And it says, "If you have raced with men on foot and they have worn you out, how can you compete with horses? If you stumble in safe country, how will you manage in the thickets by the Jordan?" When I read that, it just makes me think of being prepared and building stamina and endurance. For example, if you were out with ordinary challenges, you won't be able to tolerate or handle greater difficulties. It makes me think that God is preparing us in every situation, hard as it may be. He's giving us strength. The things to come ahead, we're prepared for.
Yeah.
And that brings me right into the first story I want to share with you guys. And this is the story of the 10 virgins. So in this story, there are 5 virgins waiting for the bridegroom. And just to give you a little bit of background, in that time, the bridegroom didn't come often. And when he came, it was a big deal. Here are these 10 virgins waiting for a husband. And, they've been preparing. They're ready. And so they hear he's coming. He usually comes in the night. When he arrives, there's a banquet. You can only be part of the banquet if you're part of the procession and your lamps are lit, and you enter before the doors close. Once the doors close, no one else is let in for the celebration. So here are these 10 virgins waiting for him to come. And in preparation, they all brought their lamps, but 5 of them filled their lamps fully and 5 of them didn't. They didn't know when exactly he would arrive, so the 5 that filled it fully were prepared for however long it took. The other 5 were only prepared for half the fuel,
no.
right? So then they hear the announcement, he's coming, he's almost here. And so they all wake up and they're getting ready to go into the procession line. And the ones who didn't fill up their lamp realize their lamp's about to go out. So they tell the other girls, "Hey, share with us some of your oil." But the other girls, being smart, said, "No, we don't know if we'll have enough if we share some of our oil. Instead, go to the people who sell the oil, buy some, and then come back." So while they went to buy the oil, the bridegroom arrived, the procession happened, the doors closed. So when they got back, they missed it.
Oh my gosh.
They missed the whole thing. And so that had to hurt. Opportunity was time sensitive. The door closed. Some seasons require readiness, not just intention.
Yeah.
And that's where attitude matters. So like the 5 foolish virgins waited passively, not actively. They assumed they had time. They assumed someone else would cover for them. They assumed the moment would be waiting on them. But that's not how it works.
It reminds me of this thing that I heard a while ago. Let's say God was feeling generous one day and he's like, "Okay, I'm feeling generous, S1E8. Today, whatever verse in the Bible that I talk about blessing you, any kind of blessing, I will give it to you on the spot. The only thing you need to do is quote that verse to me. That's the only thing. You could go ahead and quote your little heart away. I will make on every single one of those things." If God were to show up today, I'm ashamed to say, wait a second, let me look at my Bible. Let me look at all the blessings that you promised me. I know them. I probably can't cite them exactly, and I can miss out just because of that.
Yeah.
God's like, because you weren't ready, because you didn't know the verses, you didn't get the blessing. And that stings. And I think it's better to know now, to feel the sting when it's hypothetical than when it's real life and God is presenting, opening up doors for you and you are not ready to receive what's on the other side of those doors. And you're just like, it was practically handed to me.
Yeah. All they had to do was light their lamp.
That hurts.
And the other example that comes to mind is Noah and building the ark.
I think for the most part, we all know the story of Noah. God asks him, or not asks, tells him to build an ark. Noah builds the ark. That's in Genesis 6:22, and in that verse it says Noah did everything just as God commanded him to. This is so important because there's so many unsaid things behind this verse. He was obedient, but what we don't see is that God never gave him confirmation that the boat was needed. He never said, Noah, because you can see that it's raining, it will eventually flood. You need to start building this boat. Noah didn't get to see evidence of that and say, like, you're right, God, it is raining.
Actually, to add to that, it had never rained before the flood.
Exactly. He's telling Noah things that have never happened, that he has never seen before, which is super crazy. And what does Noah do? In Genesis 6:22, he did everything just as God commanded. Think about how long it took to build this boat, because it did take months to build this boat.
It took years. I think it took 100 years.
Oh my goodness.
I could be exaggerating, but it took
a long time.
It took decades to build this.
So it took a long time to build this boat for something that every human had not yet seen. But Noah had to trust God and say, like, this is what God wants. This is what I'm going to do. During this time, imagine the amount of ridicule he got. This was not normal. Noah was doing something that had no evidence, proof that will ever happen. That was his preparation stage. During this time, a lot could have happened. There could have been character building where Noah was like, I believe what God said was true. I'm going to go ahead and do it. I believe him, and then shut the doors to his mind there. Or this could have gone completely sour, because a wrong attitude could ruin a correct assignment. He could have said, you know what, I've been building this for so many years and I haven't seen it rain. I don't even think it's going to flood. So I'm going to stop building this boat. Imagine what would have happened if Noah had stopped building the boat. The flood would have come and he would have been like, I'm not prepared. I don't have enough time to build. So I think Noah is a really good example of preparation without proof.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we feel like we can prepare, it's easy, but God, show us the proof.
Yeah, so it's like preparation fueled by faith, not cynicism.
Yes. God's like, preparation happens when you have no proof.
Yeah.
Noah is an example of that.
And as we're saying this, it made me think of Jesus. So in the Bible, you hear of Jesus from birth till about 12 years old. And then you don't hear about him again until he's in his 30s. So there's 18 years of his life missing from scripture. And it doesn't mean they weren't happening. It just means it wasn't documented. But it made me think in, Luke 2:52, it says, Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. So he wasn't just idle, he was being prepared. And his hiddenness wasn't like some kind of punishment, it was strategy. But I want to pause and give like a little side note. Our seasons of being hidden, like God is preparing you in those seasons. Maybe God is keeping you hidden from certain things affecting you in those seasons. So it doesn't mean don't prepare. It doesn't mean sit idle. It just means it's not the season for whatever he has planned just yet. And then, so going back to Jesus being gone for those years. So in those years, and I like this, I forgot where I read this, but it said, before Jesus walked on water, he walked on dusty roads. Right?
That is so
Before
good.
he multiplied bread, he learned the value of labor. He was a carpenter. Before he was revealed, he was refined. So God is refining us. God is preparing us in these seasons. And you said this an episode or two ago. I think I had said in the waiting season, and you corrected me, and you're like, no, in the preparation season. And you're 100% right.
Yeah.
It's all a preparation. You're not just waiting for, something to happen. You're preparing in that waiting. And so all that to say is your attitude needs to remain anchored in obedience, humility, and surrendered to God in purpose.
Okay, and I think that brings us to another story where we see God preparing in hiddenness. David's story. David was preparing and being hidden for a long time. He was told he was going to be king early on, but he didn't actually start reigning until later in life. And David's preparation came a little bit different. During this time of whatever was happening, he was protecting sheep. He was fighting lions and bears. He was playing worship music in secret. He was serving faithfully in smallness. God didn't find David on a throne. He found him in a pasture. He was actually last pick if we read the story of David.
Yeah.
They had gone through all the sons first, and they didn't even consider David. David was out there.
Like the runt of the boys.
Yes, he was over there, not even being considered. And that is exactly who God wanted. Because as they were presenting all his brothers, they're like, nope, this is not it. This is not it. And then they're like, do you have anyone else? His own father was like, no, this is it. And then he's like, wait, there is David. He was a man after God's own heart, but we see in his life, he faces a lot of ups and downs, but there is one constant thing that we see is heart posture with David. He always comes back to God, and Psalms is filled with his repentance and like, I am so sorry, just bringing back, like, search me, O Lord, find a clean heart in me. Like, he is known for that, known for feeling deeply. And I think that part of the preparation journey that we see in David is that you're not always going to get everything right. And you're not always going to get everything right the first time, but there is this constant going back to God.
So Proverbs 6:6-8 says, "Go to the ant, you sluggard, consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest." So God literally tells us, look at the ant, learn from the ant. This tiny creature prepares ahead. And like this is wild. Like this tiny creature prepares ahead without supervision, without pressure, without applause.
That's insane to me.
Like when you think about it, like here is this tiny creature knowing that they need to prepare for the season where they're not going to have what they need to survive.
You know, the crazy thing about that is, like, ants are so small. Mm-hmm. Their brains are so tiny, yet their brains account for being prepared.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like, we have huge brains compared to them. We think that being prepared requires extra brain power. It's like a tiny little brain that is willing to account for being prepared.
Yeah. And so I want to tie this into like current situations, you know, that some or all of us have gone through or will go through. But like think of preparing in your finances, right? If you want to buy a house, if you are saving for a car, if you're paying down debt, you know, whatever the case might be, like preparedness also means being a good steward of your resources. Yes. So how are you spending your resources? How are you allocating your resources? I won't go into this too much, but it just reminded me of a sermon, and this was like years ago, where the pastor from the church was basically talking about how you split up your income.
Okay.
And your income, the first part, you tithe, and then you save, and then your bills, and then your spending. And if that first part always goes to God, the rest of it is always blessed, right?
Yes.
And
first fruits.
First fruits, exactly.
Yes.
So the first fruits. And then so it just made me think of this as we're talking about it, like preparedness. Be prepared in everything that you do. And when you're preparing to buy a house, right, you have to, you know, work on your credit score. You have to work on your debt. You have to work on, you know, finding a house within your means and all of that. So like there's a process. Prepare for it. You're not just going to wake up one day. I mean, unless you're super loaded and rich. Like, but the rest of us, you know, you have to prepare for it. Yeah. Same thing. If you're looking for a specific career, you need to prepare for it. You need experience. You need to build yourself a little roadmap so that one day at a time, one step at a time, you're building that stamina. You're building that work ethic. You're building what you need to be able to be successful in that specific field.
So I think one of the things that I love about this episode is it's coming out right before New Year's. in the time where you're starting to prioritize your life. A lot of people are starting to get gym memberships during this time, or like set like financial goals or spiritual goals or family goals, or you start to plan vacations. You're starting to look at your year, maybe some goals that you have for your career. And I think one of the main things to remember is prioritizing God, adding God into the equation as we're going into the new 2026 year. How crucial that is. Think about your current 2025 year and ask yourself, would have this year looked different had I prioritized God a little bit more? I think we can all say yes, this year would have looked a lot different had I prioritized God a little bit more. Had I built my relationship on Him? Have I allowed Him to actually bless my family, bless my life, bless my finances, bless my relationships, bless my friendships? Because if you add God into the equation, everything is 1,000 times better.
Yeah.
And He has His blessings. So looking at this new year, I know that's something that I want to do. That's something that S1E wants to do. That's something that we encourage you all to do. Not let this new year go to waste.
Start the part of your New Year's resolution with God at the center of it.
Yes.
And I promise you, everything you do, everything you set out to do, you will be more successful with it. Example, a little embarrassing, whatever, it is what it is. But my brother said something earlier this year and it really resonated because it made a huge difference. And I am always getting teased about how I cook healthy and, it's good food, but nobody craves healthy,
Oh, no.
So whatever, it is what it is. But my comeback is usually like, I cook for one, I cook for two, like, if I have company or something, but like, I'm not accustomed to cooking for a big family, right? Because I just never have that many people over, right? And so my brother's always teasing, like, we're all coming over and you're making, dinner. And in my mind, I'm like, y'all just want a free meal. Like, we joke about it. It's
like,
not
let's
really
be
like
honest.
That. It's not really like that. But hey, if they want to come over for dinner, it means I do cook well, right? But he's like, you just have to get in the habit of it. Like, what are you going to do when you have your own family? And finally, like, I took them up on it. I'm like, fine, I'll cook for everyone. And one of the things that I realized in doing that is when I take the time to prepare, like I had a whole menu, like, y'all are going to have the best meal. Like, you're going to love it. And so I took the time, and I think I've said this, to people I know in the past, like, unfortunately, I never took the time to learn my mom's recipes, and she cooked amazing. And like, so now I feel like I'm missing out on some of those flavors and meals that I would have known had I bothered to take the time to learn back then. That's a whole story of its own. But in what my brother was saying, and like me taking the time to, portion out how to cook for a bigger crowd than just, one or two people. And also in taking the time, to go grab all of the ingredients so I'm not having to improvise last minute. And, pairing the side dishes and having everything. So the whole family comes over and they have this like amazing meal. I was truly, they're all very picky eaters, like not picky, but like they know good food.
Yeah.
And they're like, we know you make good salads, but like, can you make good food? Right. And so I got compliments, and part of me was like mentally prepared to hear like the teasing or the, oh, you cooked this too long, or oh, that wasn't how mom made
that
it,
was
or,
dry.
That was dry or whatever. But no, I got so many good compliments, and it reminded me like, when I was younger, I got out of the habit for some reason, but like when I was younger, I did used to cook for the family. It was probably when I still lived at home. And then I kind of just stopped after that when I moved out. But back then, I remember thinking like, wow, I enjoy there's a certain pleasure that comes from feeding those you love and hearing that you're nourishing them and that they're enjoying the food you made. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but there's joy in cooking for others. And for the first time in a very long time, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'll cook for you guys again. But when it's like, when you're getting the harsh criticism, it's like, fine, I'm not cooking for any of you again. Like, I'll stick to my salads. Anyways, all that to say is like, I found joy in cooking for them because I took the time to prepare. And it's like the craziest analogy to fit this into it, but it's what I was thinking when you were speaking because I finally took the time and something delicious came out of it. We had a great time. They got up for seconds, which is rare with a salad. But it was a nice moment that I got to share with them, all from being prepared and not rushing. And I think a lot of the times I try to like rush and make a meal, after work or, if I'm having people over. But when I take the time to prepare, even if it is after work, it turns out great.
And also, like, your brother was kind of like speaking life,
Oh,
like
100%.
prophesizing.
He's good at that.
He was like prophesying over you, basically saying, like, hey, there is a future where you are a wife, where there are children, and you need to be ready for this
you need
mentally.
To see your future family. And honestly, he did say that. He's like, you don't realize that this season is your preparation. And I love his wise words, but I hate when he's right. But I did connect the dots when he said that. He's like, this is what I meant. This is what I meant. Like, you cooking for others is preparation for your own future. We're not just here for a free meal. It was just funny. We tease each other like that, but.
And I love that you said that because we don't really see that encouraged among women a lot. You're just like, oh no, it's like gender roles or whatever. But honestly, like,
I don't see it that way.
I don't see it that
No.
way either. And I think it's like to each his own. But one of the main things that I think about, we do think about guys that way. Like, for example, when a guy's out to go dating, we're like, are you financially stable? Do you have a career? Have you been preparing to be married?
Yeah.
Because us girls, we're very picky. We're just like, he needs to have his life together. We need to see evidence of him being prepared to be able to take care of me or a family. But we never think about it the other way.
Yeah. And then your comment just opened up a whole nother can of worms because now I'm thinking like being prepared, emotionally being prepared.
Yeah.
In all the ways that, like, in other words, like what you're expecting from your partner, are you prepared to give the same? Are you prepared to be all of those things that your partner could need? So all that to say in this episode is there are many reasons why we should be taking the time to prepare. There are many areas of our life that need preparation so that when the blessing comes, we're ready to receive it. When the blessing comes, things will just go smoother if you've built the stamina, if you've built the endurance to go through certain things in life.
But on top of all that preparing and all those things that you want, the first thing that should be prepared is your relationship with God.
Yes.
Because he is going to be the one to like really set the stage for how the rest of the things play out. We have to keep a Matthew 6:33 attitude where it's like, but first seek the kingdom of God and everything else shall come.
Yeah.
So I have a long list of things that I want to prepare for. And God's like, it's great. I want you to be prepared. But at the top of that list, Valerie, write God first. How are we going to be in a relationship where we are actively having a relationship throughout the year so I can guide you with God and all the things that you should be prepared, what to prioritize first, what can wait, what is super important because I can see the future and I know this huge thing's going to happen. So this needs to be on our priority list. So with that being said, we want to encourage you guys to just think about how preparing looks like in your spiritual journey with God, how you want God to bless you this upcoming year. How is God calling you to steward your finances, your time, and your relationships, your priorities and everything, so you can end up at the end of 2026 saying, I can really see God's hand over my life this year.
Yeah. So on that note, we want to encourage you to reach us at connect@faithtalkpodcast.com with any burning questions you might have. If there's any topic that you're struggling with or anything you're going through and you'd like some input from Val or I, we would be happy to hear from you. And again, that is connect@faithtalkpodcast.com. And this was Faith Talk with
Val
and Sony.